Alright, book brats, it's time for the long-awaited review and full summary of A Court of Frost and Starlight. Got a fancy little setup here now, but in reality I just turned my phone sideways and put it in cinematic mode, so luxury! Let's just start at the beginning and go from there. And as usual, spoiler alert. Happy holidays in Perithian, the land where anything is possible and everyone is good looking. In today's book, children, will Feyre and the rest of her goons be able to find the perfect Christmas presents for each other? So the book starts out with our beloved gang members. We got Fei, we've got Reese's Pieces, we've got the other ones. There's also a girl named Nesta who is Fei's sister, and in my opinion, she's the best. She becomes a hermit because she's upset about the last book because they got in a fight with some kings and their dad died and a lot of gruesome stuff. And then the rest of the book is just talking. Lots and lots of talking. They talk about painting. They talk about the mortal queens. They talk about shopping. And at one point, Feyre mentions in passing that she's weirded out by the fact that this new tailor's version of her has irregular periods. And during this book, it's switching back and forth from the POV of Fei to the POV of Reese's Buttercup. And I'm thinking the whole time, these are written the same way. You are the same person. At one point, Reese's Buttercup has it in his mind that he wants to go jack with the ex-lover of Fei, whose name is Tantrum. So he goes to Tantrum's castle and tries to look for him. He sees the place is a wreck. He can't find Tantrum. Nobody else is there until he does eventually find him in the corner of the kitchen eating ramen noodles and drinking a Keystone Light. And what does he do? He just bullies him hard. When in reality, he should be saying, "Thank you, Tamlin. Thank you for bringing me back to life at the last part of the last book. You didn't have to do that, but you did, and I'm grateful." No. They just talk so much smack, he eventually gets kicked out of that place, and then they all go back to the night court hub spot and party hardy. And in my mind, I'm picturing the soundtrack in the background being the classics from the early 2000s, those party rock anthems such as Get Low and Shots, and they all get schwasty-faced. And at one point they sit down to have dinner, and one person tries to start eating before everyone else and gets called out understandably. They say, "Hey, we wait for everybody to sit before we start eating. That's how things work in the Batcave." I'm thinking, you know what? That's classy. I like that. Then all of a sudden, all of them together start talking about the fact that Amren doesn't know how to pee. Amren is one of the Night Court females, I guess you could say, who in the last book was dipped into the clawfoot bathtub, came out as a fiery breathing dragon and killed everybody, and then she died, and then she got brought back to life, but now she's normal, kind of, but not really. And long story short, she doesn't really know how to pee anymore. And during this time, Nesta's absent. She's in her hermitage somewhere. And at one point, they decide, hey, let's go find Nesta. Fei apparates to wherever she's at, and she discovers that she's in a bar trying to pick up hot Fey dudes. So Feyre says, hey, I want you to come home for Christmas. Everybody misses you. It'd be nice to hang out with you again. We got some gifts for you. We're going to do some dirty Santa. We're going to do some gift exchange. So Nesta says, no, I'm going to go bang that dude over there, but not before Fei guilt trips her like a distant family member trying to sell you on the newest pyramid scheme. So she agrees to go. And then the plot thickens and you realize that they're having difficulty finding the perfect presents for one another. And I tell you, in those moments, the suspense was killing me. So while they're shopping for Christmas gifts, they meet another weaver who can basically make things out of nothing. Then Feyre talks to Amren about Nesta, and the whole time she just seems very controlling and upset. And I'm thinking, you know what, Feyre, the reason you don't like Tamlin is because you're just like him. Then at one point, Fei nude paints Reese with the big piece, but it's all good because their hearts will go on. Then Lucy Boosie, who is an old friend of Tamlin's, gets mad at Fei because Fei wants him to live in the night court with everybody else. He doesn't want to do that. He wants to live with his friends who are literally called the Band of Exiles, which sounds like a high school Christian garage band trying to be edgy. Then cut to a snowball fight. I'm not joking. There's a snowball fight. There's a real. They have. It's. Yep. So it's Christmas Eve, and all of a sudden, surprise! Guess what? It's also Feyre's birthday. So they bring out this pink cake with green misspelled words that says "Happy Birthday, Harry." Wait, I think that's another book. Nesta shows up because she was guilt-tripped into coming. Everybody's handing out their gifts. The music's playing in the background. Hopefully it's Michael Bublé's Christmas album. Come on, somebody. Cassian and Nesta fight because everybody knows there's always tension before the smashing. Feyre gets a magical tattoo from Reese's Pieces, and then she says, I have one more stocking stuffer from you. And then he's like, I would like to stuff your stocking. Then he takes her to some abandoned house that's falling apart that he bought for her for some reason. And he tells her, hey, we're going to dream this up. It's going to be a perfect house that we can both live in, like what Dr. Dreamy did to what's-her-name from Grey's Anatomy. Then Reese Reese goes back to see Tantrum because I guess the first time he wasn't rude enough. Then this girl named Morrigan sees a shadow figure in the Forbidden Forest that we never learned really anything about. Feyre starts teaching an art class. And by the way, the fan theory that gives me more life than air itself is the fan theory that says she's a terrible painter. So in my head, every time it talks about her painting something, I just picture stick figures and scribbles. And all of that's beautiful. It's very Disney oriented. You could read it to your kids on Christmas Eve right by the fireplace until they have a sex scene. And personally, it's the spiciest thing I've read in this series thus far. Good Lord. And then they all walk off into the sunset. Merry frickin' Christmas. Long story short, this book didn't need to exist. And everybody that I've talked to says, it's a palate cleanser between two really big books. I'm thinking, you need a palate cleanser? Why don't you just eat bananas with cinnamon? In all honesty, there are some things that I admire about this book, but it's not enough to justify the fact that it exists. So I'm going to give it 2 snowflakes. And stay tuned for my full summary of A Court of Silver Flames.